What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the 2021 edition of the Owens Recovery Science Podcast. This is Kyle, and in this episode, myself, Johnny Owens, Ben Weatherford, and Zach Dunkel talk about a paper that came out almost a year ago now. It's a review paper. It's on the effect of blood flow restricted versus heavy load strength training on muscle strength, a systematic review and meta-analysis. Primary author is Groenfeld, and then you have Jacob Nielsen and Per Aagaard on here as well, who have, of course, done a number of different BFR papers. And this was a fun read. It was a good time chatting with the guys about the paper and what they kind of took away from it. And so we hope you enjoy listening to us discuss the paper. We do also want to say just a huge thank you to all of you who have reached out to us over the course of the last year and just kind of encouraged us with regard to our podcasts and our blogs and our courses and those things. We plan to just keep rolling on into 2021, and we hope it's a pain in the rear because we're just traveling all over and teaching as well. So that's our plan, and we're moving forward with it. And if you're interested in taking our courses, then shoot over to our website, owensrecoveryscience.com, and click on the Get Certified tab, and that will take you to our list of courses. You can, of course, also see on our social media feeds and that kind of thing where we'll be. We usually post that about once a week. So without more delay, we are going to kick it over to Jimmy McKay to intro us, and we'll get rolling with the podcast.
This is the Owens Recovery Science Podcast, hosted by physical therapist Johnny Owens.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Happy 2021. It feels like freaking 2020, maybe even a little bit worse, but this is Johnny Owens with the Owens Recovery Science Podcast. Got the knuckleheads on here, Kyle Kimbrell, Zach Dunkel, or what's your moniker now? HMFIC, head, mother, F, you know what, in charge. Ben, and yeah, we got to keep our rating down here. And Ben Weatherford.
Pump the brakes there. Pump the brakes.
So anyways, it's been a minute. I think our last one was in December, the holidays and just closing out the year and trainings. Took a bunch of time, but now we're back on it and hoping to start pumping out a bunch more. We got a good lineup of guests this year, a bunch of papers we gotta discuss, a bunch of topics and ideas we gotta discuss. And so today we're going to talk about a new systematic review and meta-analysis that came out in the Scandinavian Journal of Medicine, Science, and Sports from some really smart folks. One of them, Jacob Nielsen, was on the position stand paper we did in Frontiers in Physiology, kind of the leader in the lab. Per Aagaard, they've done a lot of really interesting work just in general with muscle and adaptations that it does with strength. And this systematic review and meta-analysis looks at, does low load BFR get the same strength gains as lifting heavy? So that's what we're going to jump into today. And it's pretty fascinating. They did a really good job on it. But first, fellas, did anybody watch 60 Minutes last night?
Shameless plug.
Why would we watch 60 Minutes, Johnny?
Yeah.
So my daughters came in and I was like, hey, I'm going to be on TV in a minute. You want to watch this? And so my youngest daughter said, what channel is it on? I said, CBS. And she said, that's an old person channel, right? I don't think she's ever watched anything on CBS in her life. So, but yeah, it was cool. We did the Alex Smith piece for 60 Minutes. I had Alex on there and his wife, Dr. Robin West, and me and Colonel Aldo Reddy. So it's cool. I think it's on the 60 Minutes website. If you didn't see it, I thought they did a really good piece. So it's a nice feel-good story. In between all the talks with the riots and impeachments that they had on 60 Minutes, they ended with some feel-good. So it was good. And I'm 60 Minutes alumni, man. She said they tweeted out, this is his second go around on 60 Minutes.
I missed that part. That's too funny.
They said if I get on 3 times, they tweeted that they're going to give me a little 60 Minute stopwatch. So
Nice.
I got to come up with a good story, man. Something to make me famous.
Yeah, you got to figure out
tonight or something. Yeah, I need to do. I don't have much left in my tank. I don't think.
You got to figure out how to get that third exposure, man. It's the IMDb page is going to be getting long.
It'll actually have a picture of you.
it says my IMDb. I didn't make it, but I got a notice after I went on that they gave me an IMDb, and it says 60 minutes, Johnny Owens playing himself for 1 minute, my one whole minute that I was on that first one. Anyways, so let's jump into this paper here. So here's why it's interesting. We've always kind of seen that blood flow restriction at low load beats low load. And we've got the systematic reviews and meta-analysis that back that up. That's pretty much a no-brainer, and that's where we think it wins with rehab. But it's been generally accepted that blood flow restriction at low load does not increase strength to the same extent as high load training. And so there's some papers out there that show this hypertrophy is equal, or maybe you can even get better with the low load with BFR than lifting heavy, but it's always been, well, so you're going to get better strength gains if you do heavy load. And that's based off of two systematic reviews and meta-analysis. One, Alexandro's group out in Brazil, they did one and showed that BFR was inferior to lifting heavy, and then Luke Hugh's clinical systematic review and meta-analysis found that BFR didn't meet the standard of lifting heavy. So what are you guys' thoughts, or want to just move into breaking this down on where we stand with all of this right now?
Yeah, so some of the issues that we had, like with the Alexandrov paper, was they had within subject measures. So basically one arm or one limb would be a low load BFR limb, and then the other would be a high load limb, and the potential that you could kind of blur the results with a cross education effect. So this paper kind of teased that out and didn't include those in their analysis. The second thing they teased out in this meta-analysis systematic review were studies that were not randomized or quasi-experimental. And then
which is crazy. To even do a non-randomized just makes no sense to me that someone would go down that road. I don't know how they get that through review.
Yeah, I don't know too, looking at like whether that's more of an outdated, like an early type of a deal where they, said like, well, let's just look and see, like, do we get a result here? And then don't have a control, or don't randomize the control. Yeah. And then the last thing that they teased out were more than one strength outcome measures obtained from the same study. So basically avoiding a double dipping from the data. So
so you get this false inflation. So if heavy lifting showed it was stronger on isokinetic, and it also was stronger on 1RM, if you include both those measures, then you've got this kind of double dipped self-inflation of one group over the other. So yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting to be able to take out some of these limiting factors, because that's been one of the big problems in a lot of the BFR papers, is just the overall strength measurements that they do.
That's right. And, one of the big arguments that Jeremy's had for the longest time was strength is just a matter of practice. And I think that there's some truth in that. There's plenty of papers out there that show, if you just practice, you just do 1RM testing, you get really strong at a 1RM test. And then, it kind of goes over to the specificity of training as well. Like the more you do something at a given intensity, the better that you become at it. So yeah, and
they also put a hierarchy on their strength measurements in this, which was interesting. So isometric dynamometry was at the top of the list. So studies that use that, that would be the number one that you go after, because there's really it's hard to have a lot of variability to do it. It's an easy test to pull off. It's got a lot of validity. Jeremy and us as well. Usually that is our preferred method of testing. Isokinetic is number 2, which is better than handheld dynamometry, but you can still have some variability in it. Handheld dynamometry was 3, and then rep max testing was 4. So if these studies, if they included in this new systematic review and meta-analysis, had multiple strength measures, they chose the one measure that was the highest on that list. So that was also an interesting way to kind of break it down and avoid this double dip, but also get the best kind of strength measure. Right.
And it seems like the concept of specificity matters is really in all the BFR papers that we've seen and the non-BFR papers. You know, Stu Phillips has several papers out of his lab comparing a low load to failure versus a higher load to failure. And strength measures, if it's a 1RM, the high load always wins. But they also talk about that being a specificity in the way that they're measured and the way that they're trained. So
Right.
on the multi-rep max type measures, it's a very similar result across groups.
Yeah. And then
another thing that they did on that, just getting back to the double counting, because I don't think we talked about it, but was they got rid of studies that had like multiple publications written on basically off of the same data set. So
Yeah.
It avoided, so in Luke's, you know, they looked at, there was some non-randomized studies as well, in this mixed population. So combining this osteoarthritis with sarcopenics and stuff like that could also kind of fudge the results a little bit. So really kind of tease it down to a laser focus of best BFR low load versus HIT papers. The problem that they had, and this is a problem always, was some bias that was involved, because most of the trials, I think only one, right, was registered. Maybe one.
Yeah, one.
And so if you don't know registration, basically when you run a trial, you're supposed to go to clinicaltrials.gov once you get IRB approval, and you post it, and you post everything that you plan to do with that trial. Your hypothesis, inclusion, exclusion, these are our primaries, these are our secondaries, conflicts of interest, et cetera. And you put that there. So then when you go and try and submit it for publication, the reviewer can look at your paper and go back to what you were intending to do and make sure you didn't veer off from it. I review papers all the time, and it's rare. It's just really rare that you actually get a paper and that you also can get their clinical trial registration. It's a real flaw, and people gotta start doing this, or they're not gonna get through review anymore. And if you want to get into a high tier journal, like my buddy Dan Roan and our folks here at our base, they got into the New England Journal of Medicine last year. They're the only therapists I know that they're in an NEJM. And he said that review process was the hardest thing in his life. They looked at everything that they put on clinicaltrials.gov and matched it, that they followed it to the T in their paper. And then there was just even some wording that was different, and they were getting dinged on that. So that's the primary bias that they really found in this, is you just couldn't go back and see what these people did. Was it actually what they intended to do, or did they kind of change the results? But the way that I think they tried to make it where these are the best of the best papers, I'm kind of comfortable with where they stand on that bias. So they had 16 studies total. It's always crazy too when you see these systematic reviews and analysis, like, we found 3,000 papers, 1,800 were duplicates. We whittled it down to 320 and 16 met inclusion.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
It's so much work. That's why I hate systematic reviews and meta-analysis. So you do all that work, and then it's to meet the criteria. It's just crazy. But it ended up being 310 subjects. So this is why systematic reviews and meta-analysis are cool, because if you get similar studies, that's a pretty decent sized subject pool, at least for a rehab study. And it fell pretty even. The high load was about 153 subjects. The BFR was about 157. So really, really pretty close. And it was nice too, because it was pretty even on the number of folks under 50 and the folks over 50. So it was almost an even split between that. So we're getting a nice kind of dichotomy between groups here, and they followed the Prisma. This is basically best practices for systematic review and meta-analysis. And Jacob, whenever he was working on our position stand, he's a smart dude. Beauregard's a smart guy, good lab. So I trust the way that they ran their systematic review and meta-analysis was very robust. And so I think we can agree that this was a good study. And so basically, just jumping down to it, they found no difference in strength gains between lifting heavy or doing low load BFR whenever you looked at what were more robust, well done studies. So they were basically equal. The effect size difference between the two was very small, no significant difference between the two. And the overall effect size for blood flow restriction was 0.64. The overall effect size for lifting heavy was 0.79. So they both had this medium to large effect size, which means they both do get you stronger in a medium to large effect, but no difference between the groups. On their forest plot, you can see it looks like it goes over, because I used it on a slide, and it looks like it's a little bit more favors the lift and heavy, but there isn't any significance between the groups. And they explain that as they think could have been some of the baseline testing made it skew just a little bit over on their forest plot. So interesting. That's different. If now, their conclusion was not only can this be for clinical populations, but we agree with Brendan Scott's study that says BFR is something that maybe athletes should consider, because you can do a lot more volume. You don't have muscle damage. You can do it in season, no muscle damage, and you're still able to get these similar kind of strength gains. So what do you think, fellas? You gonna never lift a heavyweight again?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the hard things about kind of going too far with that is none of these studies that were included here were on highly trained individuals. They were all untrained or recreationally active. So I think you have to kind of consider the training status of the people that we're talking about. It's not that we wouldn't think that this does not work on athletes, but we might not quite see the same sort of results if we had really kind of high quality studies and were reviewed in this manner. We might still really kind of expect, well, maybe as you get stronger and more trained, that load matters a bit more. I think that would be generally our bias, but
because we've seen low load to failure gets similar hypertrophy to lift and heavy in untrained individuals, but low load to failure does not get similar strength scores to lift and heavy in trained individuals.
Yeah,
is generally, I think, what's understood right now. So
yeah,
I
would agree with that. Yeah.
And that's the problem. It is hard to get trained studies, in elite individuals to really see, do you move that needle in them? So I don't know if we're going to get that. The majority of what we're doing this for is clinical population. So I think we can take promise that if we start someone on low load BFR in the early days, that hopefully if you're doing it right, you're getting similar kind of effects of lift and heavy.
Going back to your question, Johnny, if we're never going to lift a heavy weight again and just stick to BFR, I don't really know that I'm on board with that. This BFR stuff is it's challenging. It's definitely something that is it's good to work in. I like to use it every once in a while to play around with it and better my understanding and appreciation for what we're doing. But I do like my traditional because I can get it over with a little faster. Don't have the full 5 to 6 minutes of suck.
Just joking. Yeah, the rest periods alone make it terrible. But if I couldn't lift heavy, I would definitely do this. And I think what was you got to earn it. I'm just kind of looking at the dosage here. It was from 4 weeks up to 16 weeks, and they were all within 2 to 3 times a week. And the majority of these, 14 of these 16 studies, were all on the lower extremity. So that's just also food for thought.
I thought that was some, we failed to mention it, but in there when they were looking at papers, they favored lower extremity over upper extremity papers. And then the thing to confirm all of our biases is they favored single joint over multi-joint strength testing because what do they say? The low exercise neuromotor difficulty of the task.
So basically anyone can do it type of thing.
Yeah. There's no way to cheat, no way to, it wasn't like you needed to, and that was with regard to the testing side of things, but I just thought that was kind of an interesting thing that they did.
Yeah. And so I don't know if we need to go much deeper into it than this, but we have basically 3 systematic reviews and meta-analysis that have looked at low load BFR versus lift and heavy. 2 of them, they were able to point out some pretty decent flaws of why they didn't show the results. The most recent one we have now, where they really try to knock those flaws out. We've got low load BFR is very similar to lift and heavy, or based on their study, it's exactly the same from a strength perspective. So interesting, food for thought. Maybe some of the folks in the performance side who are are using this a little bit, but questioning, if I take my guys off lifting heavy, this will help them, at least if they need to do it, feel like they're not cheating them out of some strength gains. But I still think from our big win, starting early, low load BFR, we're doing similar things for our patients as lifting heavy.
Absolutely.
Any last thoughts from you guys on this?
Can I tell you a story about my mom real quick? Since we're talking about Ben not wanting to do BFR.
Here goes all our listeners.
This is a good story.
Just left. Yeah, here we go.
It's a good story. I think our listeners will appreciate this. So my mom had some hip pain for quite a while. I've peeked at her hip here and there, but I hate treating family. And so I've got a good PT out in Abilene that I refer her to. So he's done a good job taking care of her, but she goes to exercise class and whatnot now. She's done with PT and all that. And she gets me on the phone today and she goes, anytime my mom asks for medical advice from me, I know that she should have probably brought this up at least 6 months ago, So she reluctantly says, I need to ask you a medical question. I'm like, okay. And so she starts telling me about how when she's doing lunges in exercise class, she can't quite do them the same on her right leg as she can on her left. And she wants to know, is her knee diving in because she pronates more on her right side because she has flat feet. And I'm like, well, Mom, you have flat feet on both sides. Out of curiosity, I can't remember. Is that the side that you had the hip problem on? She's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, you were in this period of disuse for quite a while because that thing was bothering you. I guarantee you've lost some strength. We know that those primary spots that you lose strength are your quad and your calf. And the weakness in those areas will certainly affect your ability to do a lunge. I said, so here's what we need to do. We just need to get you on a little strengthening program in the gym. And so I've been kind of coaching her through this. Now, this was admittedly, I didn't assess her. It was my bias kind of coming out, but I'm like, I know she needs this anyway, and it's going to help her. So I'm going to get her going on this. And to be quite honest, I've been trying to figure out a way to get she and my father both going on something like this. So I coach her through doing long arc quads and the little soleus machine at the gym, because I just got to get them going. And I'm talking her through it. I'm trying to avoid her getting too terribly sore, because I'm like, if I get her too sore, there's no way, she'll go back, because this is not the type of exercise she's done in the past. So I checked in with her on Friday, and she texted me back and she goes, I did it. I nearly died. It felt like I was going to die. I did 310 on my longer quad and 315 of the calf. And I'm like, that's great, Mom. That means you're doing it right. I go, you're harder to kill now. And she's like, awesome.
I'm just impressed your mom can do a lunge.
Yeah.
If my mom did a lunge, she would blow every ligament out in her knee, I think. So.
Yeah. Mom's a beast, man.
Well, years ago, I was really doing a bunch of plyometric kind of protocols, and I made my wife go through one of them one time. And I think I gave her rhabdo in her calves. It was so bad that the next morning when she got out of bed, she just collapsed on the floor because her calf muscles weren't working. I was going to maybe have to take her to the ER. So yeah, I've been there, man. So don't rhabdo your mom, Kyle. Don't.
Yeah, I really work.
Maybe just don't do a lunge.
Talk her through how to go about doing it, and we'll see if those lunges get better. I neglected to get her to shoot some video, and then we could be like, see, all we had to do was get her calf and quad stronger, and now she can do a lunge without this medial collapse that we're so worried about the hip abductors for.
Yeah. Similar vein, we'll never be able to use my wife as an example for BFR exercise. She's never made it out of the first 30 without telling me to turn the tourniquet off. So
yeah, mine too. Yeah.
But going back to the study real quick, one of the things you mentioned,
Don't
Johnny.
digress the conversation. What are we going backwards?
I had a comment to make, but Kyle, you went down this Kyle story timeline.
What's this regression we're doing here?
I wasn't going to interrupt Kyle's story time. I mean, it's kind of like Kyle's fantasy land. We never really know what's coming, but we just have to let it play out, and then we'll rein it back in.
We are giving people a high quality information here, Ben, and you're taking us back to the evidence.
Sorry to do that. I had a comment. I wanted to get it out there before I lost it, because if I don't get it out there, it's gone. But I mean, like all the reviews, I mean, one of the things that hit me is interesting, Johnny. You mentioned the number of studies on the initial search, and it's like, man, I'm really missed some BFR papers. I need to go back and do some searching. There's a lot more than I think I have in paper pile. But looking at how few were included, I mean, of course, they highlighted all the need for more robust studies. We have a lot of areas like every other review paper where we have some information leaning us a certain way, but still need a lot more research to really know these comparisons well. So more to say.
We always get a ton of pings on your initial search on these because you have to include every term. So one of their terms was strength training. So you're gonna get a lot of papers that come back to you, but you have to put those terms all in and then weed through it. So that's why when you see the primary author is the young kid student who had to weed through all of those and then get the 16 papers to the rest of the group, and then they went through it.
I did have a couple of thoughts that I highlighted here that I did want to kind of bring up that I thought was sort of cool in their discussion. They said, one quote from there, they said, large scale randomized controlled trials and or qualitative studies for feasibility and user perception designed in accordance with clinical research guidelines seem warranted to more fully explore the feasibility and examine efficacy of BFR, specific to pre and post clinical patient populations. Certainly sounds like that femur fracture trial will help with some of that, Johnny, in terms of just large scale. I mean, y'all are going to have.
I don't want to talk about that one right now.
Okay, well, if skipping that, we'll edit that out. And then another thing that they said.
I mean, I can't say much. I'll just say COVID has done a number on us, and at the current pace. Enrollment, I think we would have to do it for like 3 more years to hit our 250, even though we're in the hundreds. So we're hoping that's all I can say. So we'll see. It's just trials are just sucking right now because you're burning money at the same time that you're not enrolling. The people are getting paid and you run out of money. So we'll see. But yeah.
Even at 100, that's a big number by comparison to.
It's well over 100.
Pretty much every other BFR study out there, which is awesome.
The problem is it's registered, and then we pull it, and Metric wants to be in a big journal. So then it's all of a sudden, well, you're not meeting your registry. So we'll see. That's up to Johns Hopkins and the Metric people.
Yeah, and there was one other thing that I thought was kind of interesting. They referenced a little bit of the Sintner paper, and then they said, whereas BFR training-induced bone adaptations have not been examined directly. I think that's an important point because I've seen some info kind of floating around here that BFR does absolutely improve bone, and it's like, well, we don't necessarily know that yet. Yeah. No one's really used that as a primary aim. Yeah.
Hopefully it comes out in JBJS soon.
Yeah, not published yet, right?
Yeah. But it shows promise.
Yeah.
And we have mechanisms.
Correct.
And then it also, it did mention Sintner's, the tendon paper, it showed positive adaptations, and then the Kubo paper showed it didn't. And if you listen to our prior podcast on the tendon stuff, there's some real issues with that Kubo paper.
Nice. I like it. Referencing back to the prior podcast. That's a good strategy. We need to do that more.
Right.
Make a note of that.
Yeah, no, those are good points. And that's kind of standard that you have to put in there, that you need larger, more robust trials, and hopefully we'll get there.
Yeah.
So cool. All right, fellas, that was quick and easy. I'm trying to keep these under 2 hours.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, till next time, hopefully we'll have one of our guests on here soon, just getting everyone scheduled. And we got some other really good papers I want to break down. So you guys go to our website. Courses are up and running again. We've already got multiple that have sold out starting, and we got others that are popping up all the time. So check them out. Other than that, peace out. Stay safe.
Good stuff.
I'm going to go rewatch myself on 60 Minutes. I'll see y'all later.
It'll be on loop all day today. So
it's my screensaver. All right. Later, y'all.
All right. Take care.
Later. Yeah.
Thanks for listening to the Owens Recovery Science Podcast. Owens Recovery Science is a single source for PTs, OTs, ATCs, DCs, MDs, and other medical professionals seeking certification in personalized blood flow restriction rehabilitation training. Find them online at owensrecoveryscience.com.